This is an example of revenue, cost, profit, and break-even point. So if I read through this question here, it says that I have a company that produces unusual CDs in which they're telling me right here the variable cost is $8 per. That word per is telling me times each CD or the quantity of CDs. And then it's also telling me that the fixed costs, again, another cost, are $3,000. Now I'm going to see here, it says the keyword sell. I will sell the CDs for $53 per CD or for each CD. So that means the price that I'm selling is $53 and I'm going to get $53 times each CD that I sell. And then it's also telling me that X, I'm going to use the variable X to represent the number of CDs produced. So the first thing it wants to know is the cost function, which that looks pretty good here. We've got our fixed costs. Right here it told us fixed costs. So cost is fixed costs plus variable cost. All right, so I have to pay $30,000 whether or not I make any CDs. And then I have $8 per or times the number of CDs that I produce. I could also write this as C of Q is equal to 30,000 plus 8x. And that's going to give me an output of what the total cost is. All right, and so revenue looks good too. Revenue is the amount of money that I take in based upon selling my product. So got that here. I'm going to sell my CDs for $53 each. So $53 right here times the number of CDs. I know that X is the number of CDs. Good. So this is my revenue. I could also write that as R of X is equal to 53X. So remember, when I don't know the quantity of what I'm selling or producing, I put a placeholder in with whatever variable it tells me. So I input number of CDs and I'm going to get an output of cost. I'm going to have that X, X variable in this case. I input X, and then I'm going to have an X over here in the formula. For revenue, I input the number of CDs. All right, and I'm going to have this placeholder. You're going to have an X on the other side of the equal sign, and that's going to give me an output of revenue if somebody tells me the actual number of CDs that I sell. So here we've got, it says write the profit as a function. Okay, so as a function of the number of CDs produced. So that means I want to have X as the number of CDs, and then I want to write some formula to represent that. So I want to have X's over here. That's what that means. Profit is a function of X, and I'm going to have X's over here in the formula or representation. Now I also know that profit is equal to revenue. Let me be consistent here, is equal to revenue minus cost. Now I already have up here, I already know that this is cost, and I already know that this is the formula or equation for revenue. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to take those two pieces and I'm going to plug them in here. So notice all I did was write, instead of R of X, I replaced it with what I know revenue is equal to in a formula or equation. The next step that I'm doing is I know that C of X is equal to this term. So where I have C of X, I'm going to put the cost function. And I had suggested to remind you to put parentheses around this cost function. There's two pieces, the fixed cost and the variable cost. So I need to distribute that negative sign to both pieces so that I subtract off the fixed cost and that I subtract off the variable cost. So make sure that you're subtracting off both the fixed cost and the variable cost. Okay, so now that I've done that, here's my profit function. I input the quantity of CDs that I'm producing and selling, and notice that I'm going to have that same variable over here on the other side of the equal sign. So I want to write this in simplified form. So I see a number times x and a number times x, so these are like terms, so I can combine those terms. And if I take 53x minus 8x, that simplifies to 45x minus 3,000. I can't simplify any further. So right here is my simplified form of the profit function. And so what I've done is I have written that profit function in terms of the number of CDs right here, right? I'm told that X is the number of CDs. So then this next part says find the number of CDs. So find X. How many CDs do I need to produce to get to break even? So when I come down here, the important thing to remember is that break even is the point or the quantity produced when profit equals 0. So what I want to do is I want to set profit equals 0. That's all I'm doing here, right? I want to set profit equals 0. All right, so that's what I've done. And now I'm just going to start replacing again. So let me go here. I'm going to say, well, profit is equal to this formula. Okay, so where I have P of X, I'm just going to put that formula. And I know that at the break-even point, it has to be equal to 0. So now I have set up an equation that I can solve with algebra. Okay, I've got 45x minus 3,000 is equal to 0. Profit equals 0. And my goal here for break-even point is to find the x value where profit equals 0. So I'm solving here. So I need to isolate x. So I'm going to add 30,000 to both sides. That cancels out, and I end up with 45x equals 30,000. And then, remember, my goal is to have x equals something. So now I'm going to have to divide both sides by 45. And I get x equals 666.66 CDs. Well, I can't produce and sell partial CDs. So what I'm going to need to do is, in order to figure out the break-even point, in this case, I'm going to round up to the next number of CDs. So I would actually need to produce and sell 667 CDs to break even.